Hey everybody, welcome back to the All Juve Cast channel. I got Anthony and Eric with me today, and we're gonna talk some Juve as camp is fired up, and we will touch on the triumph as well of the Azzurri in the Euros. Anthony rocking a very nice Baggio tee there from Striped Arts Apparel. Make sure you check him out. Website right there, guys. Man, I'm still buzzing for the Azzurri.
Yeah.
After Juve's season, we needed that, didn't we? Unbelievable. Still buzzing. All the videos, everything going on, it's amazing. We talked about it prior to that final, and I got a bunch of English buddies here, of course. Not a peep from any of these guys after that game. Not even a, hey, congrats or anything like that. And I'm just like, really? And then I heard it through the grapevine that the excuse train was rolling through my town from those English guys. And I heard it through the grapevine that, yeah, it was a bunch of, because of this and that and this. And I just said flat out, Italy won, England lost, all the rest is just noise. Right? That's what it comes down to. Like an Azzurri getting it done. We needed that as Juventini. This last season was a little frustrating. Now here we are at camp with Mad Max back at the helm. How are you guys feeling seeing Max get out of that vehicle, looking pretty sharp, and ready to go? Couple years off.
This guy has to comment to that. I'll let Eric lead on that one.
Are you guys ready on it? Because to be honest with you, man, it's there's something for me. It's something emotional. So you see him get out, you see him on the pitch, at the Campinasa, and it's just like there's something about it that just feels right to me. There might be other people who disagree with the fact that we're going back to a coach that they parted ways with, but man, I look at him and there's just something about him, and I think he appreciates the badge. I think he loves this club, and there's just something that feels right about it.
Yeah, there you go, Anthony. How you feeling?
I completely agree with Eric. I think it brings a little bit of comfort, I think, to some of the fans who were there over the past 9 years, or even us older fans. It's nice. It's like a warm blanket, I guess, watching him come out on the field. It's especially after last season, which wasn't a terrible season. Like, it was in Eric's mind, it was a terrible season, but it wasn't all that bad. Like, for everything, like considering everything. But I think Max this year, I think Juve is going to scorch the earth this year with Max and the crew coming in.
Yeah, I think it's some much needed stability, right? It just feels right. And if anything, we just take that whole frustration out of it, because nobody can question if Max is ready, if he's the right guy or whatnot. Now it literally, it's all on management pretty much from here on out, right? Because before we had a little bit of issues with everything. You know what I mean? It was the coaching carousel, and then you had deals and all this. And the part I'm still curious to see is just how much of Max's influence goes into mercados and whatnot. Not so much now, because we know everybody's kind of restricted unless you're PSG in terms of what you can do and whatnot. And for those that are complaining about PSG and this potential roster they're going to have, if you're the same people that were against the Super League, maybe now you can kind of see why something like that would help teams that are not in that kind of scenario, right? But no, yeah, it's good to see Max back there. How good is it to see Rugani and DeCilio, guys? Hey?
Why are you starting out with them? Why do you have to start with them?
Here's a question. Here's the first question right out of the gate. Any scenario you see of use for either one of those guys, or loan at the absolute worst case scenario? Obviously, Juve is going to push for deals. Doesn't look like they're going to get any kind of sales. Any situations you see or reasoning of hanging on to one of those guys, or just even a loan, just get the wages off and anything?
I think it depends on what happens with Dragusin. I read earlier today that he may be involved in the Locatelli deal. Even that, I don't think we can have Rugani stay. I think both are going to be going out on loan. Also, Chiellini, 1 more year. Am I right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've been signed for 1 more year. So we're right now sitting 4 deep at center back. So I don't see a spot for Rugani anywhere.
Yeah, there you go. Eric?
I'm pretty sure Max likes to keep 5. I think that was kind of his thing that he always had. He's always had that 5th center back, but I really don't. And I don't have an answer. Like, I'm almost dumbfounded. The fact that they came back. We can't get rid of these guys. No offense to them, but we've been doing everything possible that we can to try to find them different suitors, and they just keep coming back, man. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know who needs a left back for Deschilio. I know Merda might need a right back now that Hakimi's gone. I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah. At this point, just a sale. Whatever. So Mal coming in here with as far as Max being back, no, feels normal. Sorry, question mark. Even Pirlo, it seemed like being in a strange dream. Like, it's your house, you pay all the bills, but someone else is living in it, making you respect their rules under your roof. That's kind of funny. That is kind of how it felt there. Great to have Max back from Yukio. Wonder who will leave before the season starts. So yeah, in terms of moves, it looks like Juve is just not going to get really what they wanted in terms of sales. Demiral still being shopped. 35 million's that number. It's always been 35 to 40 million as that number. Ramsey was being shopped. It looks like Ramsey wants to stay, and I know that there's bonuses there somewhere along the lines, which obviously are not going to entice the guy to leave and go elsewhere. Rabiot was rumored, but performance-wise, you can argue him staying based on what he did last season. And then we have, obviously, this Locatelli deal hopefully ends in the next 5 years, and we can bring him on. Artur, this news really frustrated me. Last week, I talked about it on the news recaps. Apparently, what was being put out there by journalists and whatnot was that he opted out of surgery in order to heal. So just taking that as I was reading it was obviously recommended that that's what they were insinuating anyways, that he get surgery done. He opts out of it, tries to heal, and now yesterday was the first day. And today it's reported that he is going to go under the knife. Dude, frustrating as hell. So frustrating. Your guys' thoughts on this? Like, some people are saying, man, don't attack his professionalism or whatnot. And then they're talking about this is like a personal aspect of it, like your freedom of choice and whatnot, and doing that and not wanting to go under the knife. But I don't know, man. I'm kind of torn on this. I think you got a responsibility to the club too to like be ready. And if you're the one that's opting out when a medical staff has told you should be getting that, I kind of have real problems with that. I'm pretty frustrated. Where do you guys stand on this Arthur thing?
Eric?
It's hard for me to really formulate an opinion without truly knowing the validity of the statements and what the doctors felt, because I'm under the impression that they actually came to him and they tried to do the shock therapy as much as they possibly could to avoid this. So I don't know if I think it's pretty strong to say that we're attacking his professionalism. I think as an athlete, you want to do everything you possibly can. You want to exhaust all avenues in order to not have to go under the knife. But to be honest with you, the fact that this is literally worst case scenario for him and it's causing only an 8-week delay in terms of his recovery, not including his conditioning, but you're probably looking at a total of 11 to 12 weeks, just given my opinion and my experience in the sport fitness industry. So 12 weeks after being under the knife, I think that's doable. To be honest with you, I'm glad it's happening now and not during August. So it's frustrating, I get, but not something I'm really raising an eyebrow about.
Yeah, Anthony.
I'm of the opinion that rehab sucks, and I've had to do rehab a whole bunch, a lot of times, and it's not an easy decision. So it's not an easy decision to get surgery. It never is. Again, I have to reiterate what Eric said. You don't know what the conversations were. Did the medical staff say, okay, take this amount of time to rehab on your own, and then if you come back in training camp, we'll have the surgery if things aren't corrected? We don't know the full story. It sounds like it's a quick turnaround. So to me, it sounds like the decision was you rehab on your own, you come to training camp. If you're not ready, you're gonna have surgery, because the surgery's tomorrow, I believe, right? So that's a pretty quick decision to be made. Surgery should never really be the first option. As for me, I would never want to put surgery as the first option. So I kind of side with the player on that. But 12 weeks, he's back by the end of middle of September. So then
as long as fingers crossed it goes well. The frustrating part is this dates back to last year though. And I thought the game plan was because he tried to play through it and whatnot, and then couldn't, and then there was issues. So I thought the whole game plan all along was he was going to try to get through just till the end of the season and then do this surgery. And I just can't understand at a professional level, like the part that's like bugging me is how do you just know now at the first day of camp? They don't do anything extravagant or anything crazy that he wouldn't have known prior, right? It's just a weird scenario in that aspect, right? And like Mal kind of pointed out here, he opted out of it last season, tried playing through it, postponing it, and Mal's kind of put it in on management or perhaps even his doctors, right? If they came up with this plan to like postpone and now you get here. Fingers crossed it is just that quick of a rehab and nothing goes sideways and he comes back in, but it is kind of frustrating. One of the things Antonio was actually talking to me about today was, say Juventus finally gets this deal done for Locatelli, which they should, and we all anticipate they do that. How do you see if Arthur is, once he's back in the lineup and everything? Antonio started bringing up a scenario of playing Locatelli as the Mezzala. And I said, after this tournament with the Azzurri, it really changed my mind on what I would have answered that prior to that tournament in Locatelli playing in that spot. I want to see you guys how you feel about the midfield. Say everything remains the same. Locatelli is the only one added. What your midfield would be for Juventus? Anthony, why don't you kick us off?
I still think there's, especially in the group chat, we all have kind of our different, who we're going to start. I've always been a fan of Rabiot in there. I think with Locatelli coming in, I'd like to see him start in there beside Rabiot. I'm also, one of the few fans of Bentancur. So in the middle there, I think we have options, and for the for those midfielders at that specific position, I'd like to see most likely Rabiot and Locatelli starting there.
Okay, Eric.
Yeah, I do find it a little odd that Sassuolo is going to be changing their kits before we actually purchase Locatelli. But I think it really is subjective to the formation that Max decides to run. I'm in full favor that the 4-2-3-1 is probably going to suit us the best. I'm not the coach, so I know he really liked the 4-3-3 holding formation towards the last two seasons. So it's going to depend on that. But I was also talking to Antonio, and I've mentioned this quite a bit. I liked prior to the Euros, I liked Locatelli as a Mezzala, because what Azzurri used to do with him in his 4-2-3-1 formation, he gave Locatelli the freedom to make forward runs if he wanted to. So yes, he played that defensive mid position, but he's very, very creative moving forward. He's got a good shot. He has the ability to pass through the lines. I like him moving forward. I would like him in a 4-2-3-1 with Arthur as the other defensive center mid, because I feel like on the ball, we don't have anybody better than Arthur. He's very, very sturdy on the ball. It's hard to lose possession unless he's passing it in his own 18-yard box. But outside of that, I don't see him losing possession very often. So I would opt for those two to be my main midfielders in a 4-2-3-1.
All right. Here's another question for you guys. It's being rumored that Cristiano Ronaldo is going to play out the final season. He should be showing up around July 25th to camp. So him staying 4-2-3-1, does that create issues with CR if he plays on that left, do you think? Or is that doable for Max? Because if we remember when Max was in the 4-2-3-1, we had a certain Croatian bastard who did a hell of a lot of grunt work and whatnot to make it work and whatnot. Or do you think he tries to transition CR into that top role, which he doesn't really seem to – hasn't liked so far anyways? I think Sarri tried it a few times and he just ended up drifting everywhere. CR appears to be playing out the season. Do you go 4-2-3-1 or do you go 4-3-3? You personally. This is your guys' decision. What would you do?
Personally, I go 4-2-3-1 because you can utilize Dybala in that formation. You can't utilize him in a 4-3-3. I do. Ronaldo does play the number 9 position for Portugal. I think the difference is, in order for him to feel more comfortable, is that you have to put a better supporting cast around him. You have to find a system that allows him to be maximized. I would like to see him at the top. I think if he plays that role, Morata is benched, but as his substitute, and we need that because we need depth and we need rotation moving forward. So I do go 4-2-3-1. I do put Ronaldo at the top, and if I'm not mistaken, Mandzukic was actually on the right wing sometimes during that formation, and Higuain was at the top. Both still having to do all the dirty work for Ronaldo, who played on the left wing. But I think this year under Max, it's a lot different because what we don't have is size in the box. So what we need to make sure that we do is part of Max's system is we got to have overlapping fullbacks. We got to be able to put crosses in, but we also have size in the box. And if I think he has to be at that 9 position in order to be the target man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anthony, we got Lorenzo coming in here saying CR needs to make the transition to be in the 9. He's a great box player and can extend his career that way. And Chiesa, Dybala, and Kulusevski behind him be fired. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Eric. When I think it's under Sarri, when we had Matuidi back there doing all the dirty work behind Ronaldo, we need someone. If he's going to be playing on that wing, you need someone to cover his ass, because he's not going to be helping you on the outside. So I'll agree with Lorenzo there. I don't necessarily extend his career, but based on the players we have coming back in the starting lineup that we could potentially see, he's best suited up top, and we have such young players, up and coming players, Chiesa and Kulusevski on the outsides. If Kulu is the starter, so much speed on the wings, and I think Ronaldo can do a lot of damage. Like number 17 back there. See, I have him right there. I miss that guy, but I think he can do as much damage as Mandzukic did, for sure, at the number 9 position, if not double the amount of damage.
Yeah, for sure. I think so too. I think
you take a lot of hits though. You take a lot. You take a lot of hits as the number 9, right? Like you look at Lukaku, he gets beat up. Zapata, he gets beat up a lot, and I think that's maybe why Ronaldo doesn't want to play that position. Like you take a lot of damage for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And he just he does play up top for Portugal, but that's the exact thing we're talking about is how much he drifts. Because even when you watch Portugal play, he's on the byline. He's always drifting there, and they just kind of make it work. play it back through the back. He makes his runs in, but yeah, and that's why is the amount of knocks and the guy's constantly on your back and whatnot, and just taking hits he probably doesn't have to, right? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. In terms of the fullbacks, as Eric mentioned, you got to get the support out of there. Alexandro seems to be the guy that's going to be starting on that left side. They are talking about Cuadrado moving forward and Danilo being that right-sided player. Would you guys go Danilo on the left, Cuadrado on the right? Do you see Danilo as – because honestly, Sandro for me is just – everybody knows how I feel about Sandro and whatnot. Like, the guy will work his ass off. He doesn't say a thing. He's fine as far as that goes, but it's always just like, okay, I'm right here, and he sure doesn't dip below very often, but he sure never, cranks it up to where you're just like, oh my God, right? Starting fullbacks for you guys, if everything remains the same. Danilo and Quad, or Sandro and Danilo move Quad forward?
Sandro played well under Max when last time Max was here. So I really hope last year was just a down year. I know he's getting older. I've always been a Sandro fan. I know it was hard to cheer for him last year. I think that left back position is his to lose. So I think he's the starter going into training camp. I don't want to see Cuadrado as any sort of right back, left back. I think he's much more of an impact player moving forward. The way he swings balls in the box, I don't see him playing either one of those sides for us. Danilo on the other side, fully agree with that. If we sign Locatelli, thank Christ, we don't have to put him in the middle anymore. Even though he played well there, we don't have to do that option of Danilo playing in the in front of the defense. So I say it's Sandro's position to lose for sure.
Yeah, Eric.
I actually just had this conversation. My starting right back would still be Cuadrado. I know he's a liability defensively, but I feel like he offers quite a bit as a wing back moving forward. And I feel like, if you put somebody like Chiesa in front of him, that's a deadly combination. Not to mention, we do have some extra wingers on the squad. We don't have very much in terms of fullbacks or right backs, so he would provide a solid position for the right back position, and Danilo has the ability to rotate because he could play either side. I do personally believe Danilo deserves the starting left back job over Alexandro, and no offense, Anthony, but Max's last season in 2017, Sandro, among quite a few others, were one of the many that actually suffered under Max. That was actually the year that Chelsea offered $60 million for him. We didn't capitalize. Sandro did not have a great season, Max's last season, but I think with the progression of Danilo under Pirlo, not to mention he has the ability to kind of move into a holding role if he needs to kind of sit in front of the defense. He provides just a steady – he manages – that area well, and he's never too high, never too low, like Al said. So I think my starting right and left back would actually be Danilo and Cuadrado.
There you go. I think, I think I'd probably lean with Eric there on that one, to be honest. Regardless of some of the defensive things you get with Sandro, it's just, I think overall as a whole, that would be the route I go. The young guys, we know that Max is going to keep an eye on Frabotta, Pellegrini as they're at camp. Make a decision there. One of them should be kept as one of the backups. It's still question marks as far as who's getting thrown in, because apparently somebody is in this Locatelli deal. And the names are all those guys, really. Frabotta, Rovella, Fagioli, Dragusin. Out of those guys, I would have to say, outside of Frabotta, like, I'd be fine if Frabotta was permanent, but those other guys, I would want to make sure Juve's got some kind of option. You guys agree?
Eric?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, Fagioli. especially Fagioli. I don't watch enough of Rovella to really make any type of smart decision on that or explanation. I just don't watch him enough. So I'll leave that to you guys. But Fagioli, yes. And to be honest with you, I think the Arthur situation is perfect for him because this is going to allow him to really show Max what he's capable of.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody knows about the praise Max gave him a couple of years back, when he was even younger. But Anthony, what do you think on these guys? Options are you for sure, or are you okay even outright if it had to be?
Options are always the ideal situation, but you're not, those are a tough sell. Now, I see everyone keeps talking about Fagioli. I haven't seen enough of his play, right? But people keep talking about him. Now, if he was that good, he would have got a little bit more minutes last year. So let's just pump the brakes a little bit. Now, I once again, I like Eric. I don't see enough of him play. Rovella, he had a starting position in Serie A last year, so he's the type of player who you would want to keep because he's a lot of minutes in Serie A. I know I think they're about the same age, and Fagioli's maybe a year or two younger, but it's not all gloom and doom. If you lose one of these young players, Juventus, they have the power to find players again. So if we lose Fagioli in it, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
Yeah. And the thing is just this is like, it's really hard to make that call on one or the other because of the fact we didn't see enough Fagioli, right? And Rovella, it's easier for some to say, yeah, Rovella would be the one you want to keep out of the two because we all saw him play way more minutes and he actually looked really good on a side that really doesn't impress overall, right? So it's saying a lot about him. I think honestly, I think we'd be fine either way, regardless of which one ends up staying with Juve or whatnot. I think the perfect scenario for me, in my opinion, would be Rovella staying, having option on Fagioli, but him going there and getting minutes. That would be like perfect for me because Rovella's already been there. He's already had minutes and whatnot. You can I think Max could plug him in a lot more and allow Fagioli to get those minutes, have option, and then eventually bring them back, right? I think that's ideal scenario. Dragusin, we saw a bit of him last season, whatnot. With the center backs, this is interesting. But before we even get there, and AJ finally back after a hiatus, and no coincidence that Max Allegri has returned to Juventus, and now our main man AJ is all of a sudden back and alive, and it's good to see you, brother. He says he'd start all three in our fullback discussion. Sandro at left back, Danilo right back, and Quadrado as the right outside mid in that 4-2-3-1. The nice thing is there's options there. I don't think there is right or wrong in that whole discussion, and that's the beauty of it. Max is going to have some options. That's a nice thing. Lorenzo brought up a guy we're going to talk about, and it's always nice to bring him up when Eric's on the pod. Go all in with the convert fullbacks and play Bernardeschi. That magnificent son of a bitch who dropped two unbelievable PKs. The balls to go straight down the pipe on that little jumpy, anxious mutt there, Pickford. Went top cheddar the one before. Goes into his wedding, like just living the life right now so far. Crazy style, I'll say that. But Bernardeschi, will he be? Would you bet on him under Max next season in being able to put some impact on this Juve squad?
So, I actually spoke about that earlier as well. I actually have him slated as starting the left wing in Max's 4-2-3-1, mainly because he's not going to shy away from the defensive duties that Max commands his players. There's a lot that he asks of them. I think his from his defensive phase, the transition phase, the offensive phase under Max Allegri. I think Max is going to probably want to put his most comfortable 11 on the pitch. So guys like Kulusevski, who he hasn't had a whole lot of time with, Chiesa, but obviously I think Chiesa is he's an anomaly. He's a generational talent, and he's growing. That's what I would do. I think, yes, under Max Allegri. I also feel like Max is the same guy who broke him from Fiorentina, because he really made him change who he was as a player when he came to Juventus. He stripped him of a lot of his capabilities and his abilities to play in the free role. But I actually personally, and it's not because I'm such a homer for him, but I think Max is going to really rely on him. And I do have him slated to take over that left wing position, which is what's going to allow Ronaldo to play in that number 9 role.
Interesting. Anthony, Bernardeschi, can he make an impact this coming season?
No. So if anything, Max is consistent, right? Eric is right. He will start with what he's comfortable with. That's why we saw so much of Khedira all those years. He will start all those players, and he will grind it for the first 6 weeks. So when we come out of the first 6 weeks with 3 wins and 3 draws, I just want to tell everybody right now, don't panic, because Max's teams are always slow starters. He likes to, like Eric said, he likes to stick with people he knows. I think Bernardeschi will start. I don't think he'll finish the season as a starter, but I just think we have way too much firepower on those wings. And I like Bernardeschi. I like him as a player. I hope he does well. I don't agree with the blonde hair. I don't know what the hell that was, but with the wedding, like that wedding suit, awful. But teach their own. The Jeep was nice. So I think Eric has a point. He might start the season because that's like I said, Max. He's a creature of habit. So, but I think overall, I don't think he'll make as much of an impact on the team over the course of the season as some people might think.
Yeah, he's such a different guy for the Azzurri than what we've gotten at Juve. It's crazy, because I don't care what anybody says. And Eric and I have even discussed it, and Eric's the biggest Bernardeschi supporter I know. Massive. And even he found it so hard to watch him step up for those PKs. And you're thinking, fuck me, man. And here's his biggest ride or die guy. And he's just, the second time he steps up on Pickford, I felt fine. He's a different guy with the Azzurri. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it with a player for national and a player for club.
I've seen the opposite.
Yeah.
You've seen the opposite a lot. Higuain.
Ciro fucking Immobile.
Ciro. Even up until just 2 weeks ago, Lionel Messi. You see how just the confidence or the weight of the country and representing them, how it kind of just you wear it. And if you don't have broad shoulders, it's going to drag you down. But honestly, it's a complete faith and confidence thing that I think Mancini has, not just with him, but has instilled in his players. That's why I do think he's going to do well under Max, because I think Max is going to find whatever that is and relight that fire and instill it. But that's left to be seen. Yeah.
So Eric's saying impact. Anthony's saying no impact on the season from Bernardeschi. Guys, we are going to start to talk a bit about center back situation, mostly because of the Euros and what went down. But before, of course, when you guys make bets, or statements, and it happens, you always got to stand behind what you say. And we got to give props to our man, Lou, member of our team, as he goes out and gets it done.
Look at that son of a bitch, eh?
Look at that guy going out, getting that Rocky suit. This is just brilliant, man.
We're not going to talk about him keeping the streets of Pennsylvania safe, though.
Oh, man. Man, I love that. Lou going out and getting that. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Oh man, but we're all still riding high. The Azzurri getting it done. It's incredible. Our center backs, massive. And even Chiesa and Bernardeschi there, like a nice Juve fingerprint all over this this title. Chiellini and Bonucci. Chiellini, guys, he's got to be in that team of the tournament. I don't give a shit. He's got to be in there. He's got to be in there. So, Anthony, I see the face you're making. Let's go for the argument for Maguire.
I'm massive Chiellini fan here. Look, we actually have the same nose, right? So me and him, we're kin basically because of the blowholes. But you can't. How can you leave a center back off the tournament team whose team only conceded 2 goals in the entire tournament, right? In Maguire. Now, I'm not an England slappy. You guys know me in the chat.
Yeah.
But you can't. And Pickford's terrible. So it's not like he was making saves. It was on his center backs that did a lot of the work. And I don't think Maguire was not very good in that final at all with his distribution. I was shocked. It looked like some of the men's league guys hitting some of those balls out of bounds for no reason.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he was a center back of a team that only conceded 2 goals and made it to the final. So I think I didn't have a problem with Maguire making that team at all.
My argument on that is degree of difficulty faced by Chiellini and the guys he pocketed. Regardless of a team stat of goals allowed or whatnot, Chiellini pocketed Lukaku. They shut down the Spaniards. He pocketed Harry Kane in the final. Like I think Chiellini has to be. I think Chiellini and Bonucci, the pairing is your top for that tournament. Eric.
I can actually see an argument for Harry. A lot of that's due to probably the 2 goals that he scored. I would think that gives him a little bit of an edge. If I'm not mistaken, we got unlucky with the Austria match, but we only conceded 2 goals from open play because the one against Belgium was a PK. Then obviously the Austria one, the one versus Spain where Alvaro scored, and then obviously Luke Shaw's goal. So we only conceded 3, none of which, well, actually I take that back. The Luke Shaw goal, not their problem. So they conceded technically 2 goals in which they could have stopped. We conceded 2 goals that we could have stopped. So to me, it's pretty much neck and neck. But I think the 2 goals that Harry scored is why he got the edge. And I'm not upset by it. I do think that Harry's a good center back. He's a solid center back. But I do find it funny that they say, what was Europe's top 11 players of the tournament when we have a squad of 11 players that won the tournament. So I'm a little biased because I feel like all players should have been Italian players because we won the tournament.
It's kind of strange seeing CR not in there, considering he won the Golden Boot.
I think Patrick Schick should have taken it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Cristiano Ronaldo won the whole Golden Boot thing based off of popular votes because I think there was 3 people that scored with 5 goals.
Yeah,
I think Lukaku had some assists. I think maybe that's what put him over the edge.
Yeah. So the center back scenario, obviously Anthony alluded to it earlier. Chiellini's expected to sign 1 more season on. Bonucci was the Bonucci. If we had the past year and a half, there would be 0 issues with the guy. It's now your center back situation at Juventus. How do you manage that into next year? Because Chiellini obviously was first choice captain over Bonucci, and then Bonucci would wear the armband after him. You've got Matthias de Ligt in there, who's an absolute unit and a stud. How do you work that? What's your go-to in crunch? Do you just go based on form? Do you just manage Chiellini's minutes regardless of how good he is, even when he's healthy? How do you work that center back system? Oh, here comes Anthony.
De Ligt has to start. I don't care how well those guys played in the Euros. De Ligt starts. He is the future of your team. He starts back there. I think Chiellini, great tournament. I think he sees the writing on the wall. He can't go 38 games in Serie A. It's not going to happen.
No.
Plus Champions League. So I think it's going to be De Ligt and Bonucci's starting positions for sure. I think Chiellini maybe if last 10 minutes if there's someone needs a rest or things like that. I don't think he's going to see half the minutes that De Ligt does. But for me, it's 100% De Ligt Bonucci full go at center back.
Nice. Eric?
1,000% agree. Chiellini to me is 1 year extension is probably more so to do with just locker room presence, grooming De Ligt. He's 36, 37. He's got to be managed. Max is probably the perfect manager for him because he'll manage players' minutes well. He'll get the right guys in there when needed. So I'm 1,000% De Ligt needs to play, and Bonucci is what we need from Bonucci, though. If he's going to be starting, is his ball playing abilities. That's something that we're going to have to get back to. So,
yeah, I think back to before the pandemic, Bonucci was absolutely lights out. He was spectacular, and he was playing with De Ligt there, and it was great. After the pandemic, it got really, really weird. And this pairing, the Chiellini-Bonucci pairing, even when they struggle, it works, gets the job done and whatnot. And I think I've talked about it before, just kind of the way De Ligt is more of your overall guy, and Bonucci's kind of like that hang back, clean things up, ball movement guy that at times they can struggle and not complement each other the best. And Bonucci works best with a guy that's going to go out there and do the dirty work, right? And then he can kind of do his thing and step in there when he has to, clean things up, but mostly just distribute and get things going, which he did fantastic for Italy this tournament. Creating some counters, moving the ball quickly, and just spreading the field. That's what we need him to do. So, but yeah, I agree. Ultimately, Chiellini's got to be managed for when he does step in there, just being fit, whatnot. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see there how Mac's going to work it, and that's probably going to give him some freedom to. Well, give the team some freedom too. It should in this Locatelli move if it has to be a guy like Dragusin or whatnot. But yeah, interesting to see there how he's going to play that out.
But Chiellini does play 180 minutes against Lukaku.
Yes,
100%.
Now, and another thing too is even if you wanted to go De Ligt Chiellini pairing, I'm not upset at that because De Ligt's ability to push the ball forward is pretty underrated. He's not bad himself, and that still allows Chiellini to stay back. And even when Chiellini gets a hair up his ass and he wants to push the ball forward, I think all three of them really truly complement each other. The only thing that concerns me is the Bonucci De Ligt thing is that I'd prefer De Ligt to be the guy to stay back and clean things up, but it seems like, and when Bonucci and De Ligt are out there together, Bonucci ends up being the guy that stays back and De Ligt moves forward. And if they could switch that, I'd be much more comfortable.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I actually see why it'd be De Ligt just because he's bigger, more physical and whatnot, and he's better in the air than Bonucci too, and shut things down. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I think it's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
If you're gonna rotate center backs, you got those three. You also have Danilo, who's turned into it's his birthday today, by the way. Turned 30 years old. His first season with Juve was anything but good. But last year, man, he made me eat my words. I'll say that. Became a huge piece of the puzzle, and the versatility, man. So we talked about before, you could play him on the right back. You could play him at the left back. He filled in the middle of the park, and he was absolutely great as a center back in that 3 center back system. So Danilo is going to be another big piece of the puzzle. I think it'll be spectacular for a guy like Max. See, Max does well with the utility guys. He does really, really well with those guys. So the fact that we have, and as much as people, I get it. I get it with Bernardeschi, but he's a key utility guy. You need some of those guys. Bernardeschi, Danilo, Quadrado are 3 big utilities. Like, they can play, and the nice thing is too is that they'll just grind it out as long as they have to, as long as they need, and they give you everything they have. And guys like that are so valuable. And as much as people want to talk about frustration with certain guys, if you look back to the Juve of old, you fucking had those guys. You had Tacchinardi, you had Pesotto, you had all these guys that go out there, Delivio, like, grind it out no matter where the hell you put them. You knew what you were getting. Like, just grind it out and get the job done. Utility guys, you have to have them. We are actually fortunate because we have quite a few. So that's a good thing. Expectations. I want to talk a bit about expectations before we start to just finish off with some Azzurri talk. Last year, I adjusted my expectations based on the hiring of Pirlo. And I don't think that enough Juventini did, just based on what I was seeing and what I was hearing in terms of, obviously it was a frustrating season and whatnot, but I still stand behind it. Juventus should have never been in a situation where you hire a first-time manager. No matter if he's a club legend, no matter what the hell the story is, even if it was Alessandro fucking Del Piero, earn your stripes. Go through the process, master your craft before you step into that seat. I give Pirlo credit for doing it. I just don't think it should have ever happened. But I adjust my expectations. Now we have Max coming back. And everybody's getting excited. Everybody's getting jacked up. What are your personal expectations into this season?
Eric?
So I don't know if this is going to make sense. So if it doesn't, I do apologize. But even when Pirlo got hired, my expectations for the club stay the same. My expectations will never waver because I always expect to win everything that you possibly can. Whether it's achievable or not, completely different story. But I'll never expect anything less from anybody who plays for the club. That being said, obviously it's going to be the same for Max. If not, my expectations are even going to be stronger because now we have a coach that I know is proven and who can do it. So for me, at the very least, 2 trophies. And, the last 2 seasons of Champions League, that's the trophy. Personally, I would give up a domestic trophy to take that one home. I thought we were going to do it last year, but we didn't. But given our quick and early exits of the Champions League the last 2 seasons, I'm looking for a semifinal. And if Max can do that with this squad that he's pretty unfamiliar with, because I would say about 90% of this team is completely different than the one that he left, I would feel okay about it. I'm still looking for hardware, and I'm still looking for a pretty deep run in the Champions League.
Anthony?
I think Pirlo's downfall was that without fans, the team really needed like a motivator, right? So last year was the year to bring Max in, right? But without fans, it's they're still humans, right? It's still tough to get up for games, and I think last year we don't lose. What was it? 5 of 6 points to Benevento, and the same with Fiorentina. Max, and I said this in the chat, Max this year is a swing of 10 to 12 points over last year. Just, in-game tactical changes, getting the right formation. I know Eric last year was just absolutely beside himself with some of the lineups that Pirlo was coming out with. It's 3 trophies or bust this year. Like, he's going to scorch the earth. I expect us to win the Scudetto by Valentine's Day. That's going to get wrapped up, and then it's Champions League after that. Coppa Italia, I understand that's an important one, but for me, I agree with her. It's Champions League, and I fully believe that they're going to win the Scudetto early this year, and win it big.
And Eric's expecting semifinal of Champions League. Are you expecting the same, Anthony?
No, I'm expecting the final.
Expecting the final.
Yeah,
Wow.
I expect it every year.
And Lewis expecting the Scudetto. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. So Max had an incredible stimulus on Juve his first season. He had a great team as well. I expect the same. I expect a great turnaround. I expect a great stimulus coming from Max. I think what it's going to come down to moving forward again, it's going to be that management. Obviously now Cherubini, Arriva Bene, whatnot, they need to get all aspects on the same page. And I hope Juventus does that. Max with, it'll be interesting to see what changes with players, because the one thing that many Allegri supporters have always said is just get this guy a midfield, and respect what he's done with Khedira for so long and these guys, and get him some ballers in the middle of the park and watch Max cook. Well, our midfield, say even just Locatelli comes in, I think it's okay. I think it's good. Like, it's good enough to make that run. Sure. I mean, how is it as far as the balance goes? I think good. I think you get Bentancur in a position where he can actually, play and get him out of that hole. Artur, I think he's perfect as far as the possession goes. If you get a guy like Locatelli, Eric highlighted everything he can do in terms of the support and whatnot. Rabiot's a guy that can absolutely light things up and then at the same time frustrate the shit out of you. McKennie came out of the gate strong as hell. He got this weird hip thing last year and was never quite the same. He kind of faded, and then he was getting moved around too much, one side to the other, and you didn't know, was he staying as an outside mid? Is he supposed to play that a la Ramsey role? And I think Pirlo was to blame for some of that, and maybe McKennie falling off course there. Max is going to be interesting to watch, but I think his stimulus will be strong. I expect the Scudetto with this team that we have, and Max being at the helm. The Copa, I honestly, if it happens, it happens. It's great. Champions League, I think it's going to be interesting to see Dybala with this team, how Max works out. I think it's always that piece that's it's weird to make work, but when it does, it's fantastic. And I know that Dybala's got a lot of criticism for Champions League knockout games and things like that. But honestly, I'll die on this hill. We maybe not win, but we're in a tight race for top if Dybala's around last year, in my personal opinion. I think he was a huge piece that we were missing. He started off the year like dog shit, I know, but he's still, the team plays different with that guy. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, Max can put it all together and make it work. Chiesa just announced himself to the whole friggin' world. Whether these rumors are true, 80 million, 100 million, whatever, I believe him. The kid's unbelievable. Do you guys remember where you were at when the Chiesa rumors happened for Juve and what side of the fence you were on? Were you for bringing him in, or were you against it?
I was for bringing him in, and I was against signing Kulusevski because I thought that they were just be occupying the same space.
I was worried about the Chiesa deal because Bernardeschi came in with equal amount of height. I think there was an equal amount. I wasn't worried about. I knew he was going to be a great player, but it's just, I'm just so happy that he's with us now and we're turning down deals. It's a great spot to be in for sure.
Absolutely. The two untouchables, De Ligt and Chiesa, has to be. I think no matter the offer, whatever, I think everybody else you could consider. You can consider something, but those two, I wouldn't. Absolutely not. Chiesa, my thing was the original numbers that were thrown out. The final deal Juventus got for Chiesa is fantastic. The way they work that into 2 loans, then ended up in the purchase, absolutely fantastic. With the Azzurri, it was talk the whole tournament. Chiesa starting, all this, and Mancini, what he was doing and using him as Mancini played all the cards right, I would have to say. I mean, how can you argue that he didn't? He made all, even in the final. If you guys would have seen my reaction to seeing Cristante coming in, and the fucking guy was the guy that got to that one that the ball came across. Verratti obviously goes off the post, off Pickford, and Bonucci comes in and clean it up. Even in that point, Mancini pulled the right strings. This Azzurri squad, I think moving in the future, it's crazy to think Zaniolo wasn't a part of it. Lorenzo Pellegrini could still have some say in it. Lazzari, I think, I was saying should have been there with the squad. We lost arguably a guy who could have been player of the tournament, Spinazzola. And I honestly think that final goes differently earlier if Spinazzola's in that game. Man, the Azzurri, how it's crazy. It's crazy when we talk about this when we were at rock bottom. This turnaround's incredible. The center back situation with Chiellini, Bonucci being, of age, whatnot. How do you guys see that shaping up in the future?
We don't really have a plethora of good center backs coming in. I think it's by default, it's going to have to be a Bastoni Mancini back line, unless somehow, some way, Romagnoli kind of gets it going. But to me, right now, those are probably your 2 next up and comers.
Yeah, so Bastoni, I feel really, really good about.
Yeah, Bastoni is going to be a solid center back. I have no doubt with him. It's just who's going to be paired next to him.
Yeah.
We got a year to figure it out. I think we'll see what happens this season, and then it starts middle of November next year. So, see who maybe catch lightning in a bottle with somebody at the start of the 2022 season. So I think we still have a bit of time to figure that out. And who says Bonucci won't be there?
Oh yeah, for sure. He could for sure. Who do you bring as striker in the next tournament right now? If things set like Keane, is Keane going to be back in the squad? Do you think after missing out here?
Go ahead, Andrew.
There's a reason why he wasn't there, and no one knows what that is, right? Like, I don't know what it is, but there's a reason why he wasn't brought to this tournament. I think he had 17 goals with PSG. Al, you'd have at least 10 if you played in that league. So, you're playing a bunch of pig farmers. So I'm not sure. To me, there's something else. There's something else there. And then I will fully pass this to Eric because he was talking about the false 9, for weeks. So if we move to that, then we have the player in Zaniolo who can play that position.
Yeah, I think that's the shout right now because I don't see anybody coming up that could be ready at that point, really. Like, unless somebody takes some major steps. Honestly, I think that's the way to go when you get Zaniolo in that false. That Zaniolo could just do some serious damage. It's crazy. Lovato is a good shout that potentially with some time there at center back could be a partner for Bastoni, and that's actually a really, really good shout. Lewis is always.
But it's hard for me to imagine. That's another thing, too, is that, let's say Keane does get the call up, and then we go into the World Cup, and it's hard for me to imagine that Mancini's going to just throw all these guys with absolutely zero major caps into his starting 11 and say, here you go. So guys like Zaniolo, guys like Keane, who I personally don't think he's going to be there, not because of his skill set. To me, it's a mental thing. It's a chemistry thing. It's a locker room thing. It's hard for me to imagine that these guys are going to just get the call up and Mancini's going to go, okay, here's my new best 11. That's not going to happen. One thing I do like is guys like, that's why I was really happy that Raspadori got the call up, because now he kind of has gone through what it's like to be at a major tournament. Chiesa is still very young. Locatelli's got some major playing time. Verratti and Jorginho are still fairly young. Obviously they're going to be boss in the midfield. Barella's going to be boss in the midfield. Spinazzola is going to be healthy. To me, Lazzari takes the right back position. And it's really what you can do in that front three. And what I do like about a potential false nine is Lorenzo Insigne, Zaniolo, Chiesa, Bernardeschi, Raspadori, Berardi. All of those guys, if you did a Group 1A and a Group 1B, at any point in time, they can all rotate. And I think that is the biggest pro to Mancini's system, is just how free-flowing and moving it is and how creative it is. And that's why I think he needs to completely scrap the idea of having a striker or center forward and get rid of the rigidity of Andrea Bellotti and Ciro Immobile and find someone who has the ability to just free flow throughout the entire front.
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. Anthony?
Yeah, Edgar just took the wind out of my neck sails here, but I disagree with Eric on one point, that in terms of major tournament caps, I think Zaniolo is going to be an absolute baller at the World Cup. If he's healthy, I think he's going to be player of the tournament, and it's not even going to be close.
Really?
I am so excited for him, and maybe it's because I also tore my ACL and it sucks, and I know the rehab and all that, but I am very, very excited. I've never been this excited for a young player than Zaniolo.
I would absolutely agree, and I think he's probably our probably legitimate generational talent when he's healthy. I think he's a bit different than the rest of them because he has gone through the U23s and the under squads to get to that senior level. The only thing that held him back was his injuries. So I think the experience factor won't play as much of a role, because in terms of his ability to play, he's very mature in that aspect. So I do think that if he runs a false nine, you could literally put Zaniolo, Chiesa, and Lorenzo Insigne and tell somebody good fucking luck.
Yeah, pretty much. But early shouts for Zaniolo, if he's there, to be player of the tournament from Anthony. We've got semi-final shouts for Champions League, final shouts for Champions League. Man, the nice thing is this Azzurri tournament, like them doing that, it's just kind of like, oh man, it was such a nice break from Juve and kind of what went down and whatnot, and now we kind of get to ramp up now as we see Allegri back at the helm. The excitement's there, regardless of where anybody kind of stood before. Like, I mean, it is what it is. At some point in time, you just gotta right the ship. Right, it's going in the wrong direction. Hopefully, everything goes well. What do you feel like? What's your guys' feelings on the kind of patience level that's going to be had? Because we don't want to create a coaching carousel. I believe Max has been brought in for 3 years. It's 3 years, right? He's signed, not 4. It's 3.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's 3. Yeah.
And I believe he gets those 3 regardless, because they just can't keep doing this. We barely stumbled through the finishing line with Sarri. With Pirlo, things went down. If the Scudetto is not achieved, if Champions League is not won, I still believe Max is getting those 3 years. Do you see a scenario where he potentially doesn't?
The only thing that I can think of is that he has so much success within the first 2 years. Someone like Zidane wants to come in and he takes over for that 3rd year. Honestly, I that's the only explanation I can give. The patience level, to me, I think there's going to be a point where if we hit a roadblock or if we hit an obstacle and we have a bad match, there's going to be this sense of he's going to know what to do after this. He's going to know how to handle it. He's going to know how to counteract it. So I don't think you need to have as much patience, because even when we do stumble and fall, we know that we have the right guy in place to right the ship and to do what's necessary to make things right.
Yeah. Anthony, what do you think?
Which we didn't have last year, right? Like when we were stumbling last year, it was like, you felt like when last year when we stumbled, we were going to stumble again, right? And and then we'd have the odd game where we'd win like 3-0, and it was great, but then you kind of stumble again. But I agree with that. I think he goes all 3 years. I don't think the Champions League will be a major factor in him having like staying or going. I think the Scudetto is. I think full expectations are 3 Scudettos in 3 years. So and possibly 3 Coppa Italias. But I don't think Champions League would be written in there. I think he has. I think he's going to have a little bit more say on, probably a lot more say on players that are coming in. Locatelli's a bad pun, but he's a lock for this year. It'd be interesting to see who else he wants to bring in. Like, is striker? Do we need one more? There's a lot of talk. You guys talk a lot about in the group chat, but I think we need one more striker to get through this season.
Yeah, and the reports are all over the place because they're saying they're going to sign Kyle Jorge, 19-year-old or whatever, out of Santos, as a backup to Morata, whose loan's been renewed for the one last season of it before it becomes a option to buy, which I can't see them utilizing that option once Morata's time's done on loan, because it'll be 35 million euros or something at the time. I can't see that happening. The other thing is, it's really just some young guys that have been thrown out there for options, but they always said it was going to be 2 midfielders, and now the tune's kind of changing because I think they see that there's no sales. There's no sales coming, so I think they're going to go with 1 striker and 1 midfielder really coming into this team. In terms of Max in this season, I still stand behind what I was saying. For a team that's got such a high payroll, I don't think it's up to the quality level matching the number of what it is. I have more faith in Max getting the most out of what we do have than I did prior. So the same thing still stands in my personal opinion as far as the dollar value, and saying Pirlo needs help from the guys, and the guys weren't really stepping up for him, and they were dropping a lot of points on the pitch themselves. I think Max is going to do things to help that, but I still think that holds true to Max, is that the team he's, inheriting, I mean, Locatelli will help and whatnot, but we could use some more help. We could use some more help. There's some guys that are going to have to pick it up and can't play the way they did last year. We all know who those guys are. That's going to have to change. I have faith Max will make the biggest adjustment, which was something that Anthony touched on. When we stumbled, we didn't get it right, and I think that's attitude. It's attitude, demeanor, and everything, and we already talked about it. That swag Max kind of has, right? And you could see it already, right? And I think he's going to bring that attitude. What it's like to be at Juve, what the expectations are, and what you need to match. I think he will set that bar, and I don't think he's afraid by any means, and we've seen him do it historically, is push players' buttons and call them out and get what we need to out of them, because that wasn't happening last year. So while we were blaming either the players, Pirlo or whatnot, it was everybody. Pirlo's got to, there was times guys were getting minutes that shouldn't have been based on what they were doing. I don't see that happening with Max. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, he's a pretty no nonsense guy in that sense, and which is why I actually came out and said that I think Kulusevski actually might struggle under Max, and it's because of what is demanded. And if he plays at all like some of the matches that he played last year under Pirlo, he's going to lose his spot quick, because Max will put you on the bench in a quickness and put somebody in your place who's ready and willing and who will fight.
Morata's another player that struggles with confidence issues. So if Max starts grinding him into the ground, looks like I see some people here talking in the chat about getting a fourth striker. Might need it because he can. Eric's right. He can break players' confidence. And Morata's right at the top of that list.
Yeah, and that was heavily documented. Even Pirlo in an interview saying, "Yeah, he's off and he's all over himself and he gets emotional." And it's just like, fuck, man, you got to suck it up and you just got to be a pro. You got to get on with it, and the team needs you, right? So, be interesting to see, man. There's a lot of factors to think about. Max has got history on his side. He's the right guy, I think, for what we needed, which was just getting back to some sort of stability. So it'll be interesting to see. How the Mercado finishes up. Not a lot expected, as we could see now. I'm okay with it. Max has his main guy, Lord Deschilio, back, who Max will bring back into the best right back on the planet. He's going to have Rugani soaking up those 12 minutes a season. Just the best 12 minutes you'll get out of Rugani. No, in all seriousness, I'm pretty pumped on this season. I know where I was at with Max towards the end, but again, it's nice to just take that part of the issue out of the equation, right? Max being back, he can't, for what he's achieved is what it is. If we play ugly as fuck, I will still be frustrated that we're playing ugly as fuck, but I'll be happy if we get the results. But I think we're capable of doing both, and Italy proved you can do both. You can do both and succeed. Italy was very entertaining to watch because they could play in all facets of the game, and that to me is beautiful football. Not 7-1 victories or whatnot. It's the fact that when you need to shut the door, you can. When you need to counter a team, you can. When you need to control and dominate, you will. When a team parks the bus, you'll find a breakthrough. That's the big one with Juve, because we've struggled with that for a few seasons now. Teams put that low block on, you got to break through. But Italy set the fucking building blocks there, man. It can be done. I want to see Max achieve that. That's my expectation. Be good on all fronts, all phases of the game. Realistic? Fuck yeah. Should be. Otherwise, what the fuck are we doing?
Let's go to bed.
No, it's gonna be a stellar season, man. I'm looking forward to the Chiesa show. Juve just finished the deal for Locatelli, so Lewis and Dan can go out and buy that jersey. It's been sitting in their cart for fucking months. Just finish it up. Let's get this done. Perin, this is interesting because this goes back to Juve's history on players' will, right? He does not want to stay because he wants to play as a starter somewhere. Sirigu set to sign with Genoa and be done. How do you feel about keeping a guy that doesn't necessarily want to be there, but that's kind of your only option for backup because you're not going to bring somebody in. There's no deals being made. What do you guys think about that? He's got to suck it up as a pro, right?
So I feel like an idiot because me and Anthony just had this conversation, literally just had this conversation. And I was like, no, Perin's gone. He doesn't want to be there. He wants to play. Right. Sirigu's going to be our backup. Well, come to find out, he's about to sign a deal. And then we don't have another option. So Perin's probably going to have to be our backup keeper.
Yeah. I don't even know what the hell you two are talking about. Was this today?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric, we look like a couple of idiots.
Yeah.
Because
so anybody listening to this podcast, listening to my takes, don't take them serious because they're fucking bullshit.
I'm the one who always seems to go with, the odd ones. But I thought there was no chance whatsoever that Perin stays. Like he was adamant. He wants to be a starter. The past, 2 years has been the case that he gets loaned out. I have no idea how that locker room's going to be. How that
exactly, right?
Yeah.
They're going to try. Juve's going to try. But right now, if Sirigu's not that up, there's a couple other guys. There's an older guy, can't quite remember his name, in Brazil. And there was another one in Italy, but it just doesn't look like they're going to be able to make it work. And I don't know how I feel about keeping a guy against his will, like when he's expressed it so adamantly. You know what I mean?
But
It's weird.
Is this lack of confidence in Szczesny by Max? Like saying maybe that's a Max Allegri's decision to say, listen,
I think
no, it has nothing to do with that.
Tech is staying because of Max's confidence in him.
Yeah.
See, I have no idea.
Szczesny literally was not moved because Allegri, it was reported that he said there's no need to go after Donnarumma because he's fine with Szczesny. So he's like, focus on the other guys, right? But the problem was they just couldn't get any other deals to build up money to make other transfers. Locatelli's was always like, it doesn't need any determining factors. I know it's been rumored as of late, but I call bullshit on it that they were waiting on a Demiral deal to fund Locatelli. No, that's nonsense. Locatelli was always in the bag, and they were managed for that. Demiral would be over and above. And they also have to write the books. But again, I don't think there's going to be some type of loophole or situation. There has to be because of the pandemic on writing these books. It's just not realistic for where teams are at. No teams are purchasing players.
Except for PSG.
PSG, yes. And we know why, and it is what it is. But that's just the way it is. But, yeah, Perrin there's a good chance he's staying against his will of wanting to go somewhere and start. So it's really, really weird to have that kind of dynamic on the team. And Juve hasn't done that for a very long time. Because usually if you say, hey, I want out, like, there's the door, man. You're out. Emre Can was the last one that was like, yeah, okay, winter mercado, see you later, right? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. It's a weird one.
It's very, very strange.
Yeah,
I'm glad he's staying. I always think he's a great goalkeeper. I think he's a top European keeper. I think he can play anywhere in Europe. For the most part, have him as a backup. It's a good problem. But yeah, man, when you have somebody in the locker room who doesn't really want to be there, that can be a problem.
Yeah, it's strange. Perrin, I thought when he first came aboard, I honestly thought it was going to be a battle for first, and he was going to really compete with Szczesny, and it just didn't amount to anything. I don't know what it was. Maybe Juve's just, I don't know, that stayed, that it was too much for him. I don't know. I always rated him highly and thought he was a great keeper. But it didn't amount. Anyways, I just wanted to finish up on that and see where you guys' thoughts were, because it's the first time it's literally going to happen to Juve in a long time. They might see him out. They might get some deals done. But right now, if you guys are looking for action on the Mercado, look elsewhere for action, because it might not come. Locatelli will be probably it. But yeah, they got to get that done at all costs. Has to happen. Insane that it's taken this long. But yeah, guys, awesome chatting with you. It's been an absolute blast, as always. We'll do some more, obviously, as we get deeper into the offseason, see the camp here. Let's wait for the big guns to come back, too. Dybala looks good, though. Looks good. He was taking care of himself, at least. Probably a huge benefit for Juve that he didn't go with Argentina, even though I would have loved to see him play with those guys. Great. Rodrigo de Paul. Still, I say, like, fuck. I would have wished Juve found a way. Bring in Bond. I don't know. I don't know. I know where it stands as far as the financials and whatnot, but I think Serie A in general is going to really miss that player, man. And everybody had eyes on certain guys on Argentina, and in comes de Paul. And it's just another one of those scenarios where so many people are saying he's not good enough for Juve. And it's just crazy to hear that stuff. We heard it with Barella. You heard it with DePaul. You hear it with all these guys, and it's like, fuck, man. Just the eye test never fails, does it? The eye test never fails.
See, that's why I'm not too worried about the Scudetto this year, because no one's getting better. Now, Juventus might be kind of, staying the same, but no one's getting better. Like, I think Inter's going to suffer now that they've lost Conte. I think Conte was a big part of that win last year. Inzaghi's a good coach, but I think we tool up with Locatelli. That's all we need for this season, anyways.
Yeah. That's all we're gonna get, and I'm happy with it. Locatelli's amazing. Let's bring him in. Let's get going. I'm ready for the season start, but okay, take some patience. Let's still celebrate the Azzurri winning. I'm gonna soak that one up for as long as I can. I think I'll probably get off this podcast and then start calling those English buddies that didn't bother to reach out and just see how they're doing. I'll give them the good news, though. If they make it another 55 years, they'll see another final. Maybe that one will go better. Thanks, guys, for joining. Thanks, everybody who joined the live. We'll keep you up to date with the news on the Juve Today episodes. Forza Juve, Fino alla Fina, and Forza Azzurri. Keep celebrating that second Euro from the Azzurri. Ciao tutti.